Hey, look. Labels blowing up my line and got me missing calls. Told her you ain't gotta hit me till you licking. Feel like ZVF, baby, I be cooler than the mink weather. Make a Coke bottle, give me brains till I think better. Back up on my again, hanging out with Benjamin. Franklin got me stanking in the Lincoln, talking dividends. Look at what we did again. Brought the water dipping in. Down in Texas on them elbows where your digits been. All these I can smell it through the audio. Lapping everybody got me working on my cardio. Party over daddy home, creeping out the caddy comb. Straight from underground, I got these Maddie on. I've been kick pushing on my grind since the pro skate. I don't do a figure that I'm pro hate. Chilling in the cut like a scab ready to peel. You ain't gotta like it, I promise you gotta deal with us. Used to be friendly, I'm off that and I'm on business. All I've been seeing is flawed jewelry and fake digits. So when I tell them I'm the coldest, it ain't superstition. Every time you see me, you gon' find me in a new position. You mean? Look, ain't had to tell them I'm the truth, I think they knew it. Don't like to talk about the shit, I like to do it. So while these other hungry going through it, you see me thumbing through these hundreds, getting to it. Ain't had to tell them I'm the truth, I think they knew it. Don't like to talk about that shit, I like to do it. So while these other hungry going through it, you see me thumbing through these hundreds, getting to it. I told a fat, do you have Meg needs? I'ma need that right after that. Please, bet you leave way before my bread leave. Got them Googling the caption, trying to see who said these. Tell these hateful mother I've been choosing love. It's the God, baby, tell me really who's above. These watching always talking what it used to was. Meanwhile, I'm raising up them digits like the Booster Club. I'm in my finest hour, hit the shower for one. Doing push-ups, running laps around the comfortable ones. I be coolin', I be chillin', I be with fun. But check the trophy case, I can't find nothing you done. Need Huxtable funds. Either with it or you in the way. Making money been the play, ain't looking for no friend today. I just came to tend the garden, I do not yeah.
Yo, what's happening, everybody? This is your boy Earth Mac, the mad scientist.
Alvin, the infamous. It is time to talk about some wrestling in it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Time to talk about a little bit of wrestling.
Just a little bit. Just a smidget. You know what I'm saying? This is Pro Wrestling Talk Live day on this Wednesday night. Move over to Wednesdays. Just an hour before AEW Dynamite kicks off, which is a jam-packed AEW Dynamite. So you might want to definitely check that out. And
yes,
go ahead and record that and do what you need to do with that.
Yeah.
But today is all about WCW because as promised, we was going to cover every single episode of Who Killed WCW. And this is really the most anticipated episode, at least for me, out of this 4-episode series. So was this the most anticipated for you?
I would say yeah. Out of the first 3, this being the third.
Right.
I will say yes, because when Vince Russo, when he fully came in and it started to really plummet, I found myself starting to watch just a little bit less, and I was more focused on Raw a little bit more. I would still watch Nitro, but this time we got that deep dive in how bad it was, and my God,
I
didn't know it was that bad. And of course, we got to see our man right there in the pink book, Bret Hart, and boy, Bret Hart is winning me over and winning my respect more and more each of these weeks. I wish it was like a Netflix special, like 8 episodes, 10 episodes. But
because I feel like, to piggyback off of you. So after I finished episode 3, right, in my mind, I was left thinking, they could have dug deeper into this. To me, it felt like they did dug a little deep, but it still feel a little glossed over. Like it still feel a little rushed at times, and they're just going over certain like things or whatever. I mean, honestly, for authenticity's sake, Ric Flair is missing, Sting is missing, Hogan is missing. So it's like, you don't even hear like any of their sides of the story at any point, like at any point of the docuseries, right? So you don't know how Hogan felt about certain things, how Flair felt about certain things, other than Twitter, obviously, and how Sting felt about like certain things. So I mean, God rest his soul, Scott Hall. Like, I want to hear what he had to say about most of this stuff, because Kevin Nash, now he's about that paper. Like, that just he don't sugarcoat it, he don't hide it, he's about that paper. That's what it is.
And see, there's other stars that we can still hear from.
Yes,
is if God, as long as he has a pass, I haven't kept up with him in years. Shane Douglas, possibly the likes of Disco Inferno. Look at Ernest the Cat Miller. I mean, there's guys that, and we're only just scratching the surface of who we can hear from. God rest his soul. If Chris Canyon was here, because he was there at the time. I mean, there's Dean Malenko. Of course, they jumped ship at the time when stuff really got bad. I mean, it's Chris Jericho. I mean, there's Perry Saturn. I mean, it's a lot of guys.
Perry Saturn. Dean Malenko is like AEW. But Juventud Guerrera.
Yeah.
Hear from him, like what his thoughts process. Wrath or Brian Adams. Hear from him, because he's been pretty vocal on Twitter too about how he said himself on Twitter. He said Eric Bischoff and Vince Russo treated him and his tag partner like, with respect and dignity and stuff like that. So he got he himself had anything bad to say about Eric Bischoff. But we are going to jump right into this, man, like WCW World Championship Wrestling episode 3, because hey, the man that was part of the percentage of people, along with Ed Ferrara and Vince McMahon, that was whooping Nitro's ass for like what, from 99 to the 2001s, was Vince Russo. And so tell me this now. Tell me this. Let me know how you feel about this. Vince Russo took me on an up and down roller coaster of how I felt about him. That whole episode.
Yeah.
Like, did he get you that way too?
He did. He got me that. Let's see. Of course, I disliked him when I first saw him, because I heard him talk, and I'm from the South. I'm like, listen to that New York accent right there. And every time, for the most part, every time you saw him, he had on some New Jersey type of crap, which I was like, all right, even worse. You really got to dislike him now. But then, and of course, the bias was very easy to say you didn't like him. Then he says, he's like, I came out here for the Booker T's, and I was like, but hold on. Do I all of a sudden like this guy? And then they show some clips of matches and whatnot, and I was like, okay, I just like this guy. Then I see him take a spear by Goldberg, and I was like, okay, I like this guy. So I was like, I was here, then here, then here, then here. Now with Bischoff, I've always been straight. I've always been good on Bischoff. I like him. And of course, he's had his moments, of course, but some of his TNA days, I was like, okay, I kind of like him. I mean, I really like him. But Vince Russo, it was just, it was really up and down. Like, I was really up and down with it.
Where I was up with him is where his interactions with Vince McMahon. Like, he was writing for Vince. He met Ed Ferrara. And I think, I forgot what the conversation was as far as like, the added SmackDown. Basically, the added SmackDown, basically stretching Russo and Ferrara thin. And at that point in time, what made him leave the WWF at that point in time was he felt like he had more love for Vince than Vince had for him at that point. And then The Rock said something crazy. He said, well, he left. I was like, shit, happy for him. But I felt like he wanted to say more though, because it felt like he, it was more he could say about Vince Russo. But then again, if he would have said more, it probably would have sounded like a puff piece, basically, like a smear campaign in a way. So he jumps over to WCW. And so now, the rise and fall of Nitro, the rise and fall of WCW, they talk about Vince Russo. It's like, oh, we got a golden goose. We got the guy that we took this guy that was the catalyst in making Raw, and we got him and we gave him head of creative. So the thing is, now one thing is consistent though, is that on that DVD, Who Killed the Rise and Fall of WCW, and his documentary, is the filter. There's like, that's the consistency. It was like, well, when he was in WWF, all his ideas went through Vince. Vince took out what he didn't like and put in stuff he did like. WCW, he didn't have that filter. He had, complete control at that point. And this one, Eric Bischoff was going like, to go, let's point out the good things Vince Russo did. Let's do that first.
Everybody, I don't think this list is going to be that long. So,
So along with Eric Bischoff, because I don't want to leave him out in this, they had this idea about the Millionaires Club versus the New Blood, which I really did like that storyline. And I did like the reset that they did when it was in the ring, because that actually made me tune in, because, hearing this name, Vince Russo, whom I never heard before, and come to realize as a kid, this is the guy that's been writing the storylines and all that stuff for Raw, and he's in Nitro. I want to tune in and see what you got to say, because he's going to pull up. And having all the wrestlers in the ring, he's stripping everybody of the titles. I'm like, I'm confused about what's going on. Eric Bischoff comes in, they shake hands, and it was like, we starting anew. Like we are resetting. And the veterans didn't like it too much because their spot was getting threatened. So let's back up for a second. He gave Chris Benoit the title. He had him win the World Heavyweight Championship. 5 days later, this man shows up on Raw.
And here's the crazy part about it. He didn't show up alone. And then Bischoff was like, I'm out eating. And I look up at the TV, there's Perry, Chris, Eddie, Dean, and they're walking out. That's the Radicals. And I actually remember seeing them for the very first time on Raw. And I said, yo, weren't these guys working for the company based out of Atlanta? And I see him and I was like, one, they don't look like they're invading. They look like, hey, we're just here to wreck shit. We're not here to take over. We're just here to tear something up. And of course, 2 out of 4 will go on to be huge stars. I wish Dean could have done more. I certainly wish Perry could have done more, because I think that group should have stayed together a lot more than it did. I mean, that could have been a very good stable, a very good faction. But to see them show up in WWF just shortly after everything was restarted with WCW, I was like, time out, everybody. Time out. What the hell is going on? But and Jericho, if I'm right, Jericho had already left WCW. And he's probably sitting there like, well, welcome home, guys, because he probably started writing on the wall long before that.
Well, see, what's funny about it is, though, okay, when it comes to like Vice TV and Dark Side of the Ring, typically like the narrator is like Chris Jericho, like it's his voice, right? But on this one, since it was produced by Rock, like they don't have beef. I'm not saying that, but Chris Jericho is noticeably not there. So Chris Jericho is really that person that moved that needle, because he left from the cruiserweight division and he moved over, and he was on the countdown. He was Y2J. He interrupted The Rock. He had a promo battle with The Rock his first night. So,
Yeah.
like, okay, so you take him. Before him, you had X-Pac, because like they didn't touch on that. Like the documentary series didn't touch on that. So
now that you mention it, X-Pac / Six Pac is nowhere to be found in episodes 1 or 2.
Yes,
Nowhere.
he's not there.
Nowhere.
He's not there.
I mean, and he shows up at WWF when, of course, Shawn loses to Austin, and Triple H goes out and have, I think the promo that just ascended DX into what they ended up becoming. When he says, "Hey, sometimes you got to lean on your friends," and boom, here comes X-Pac, and he mouths off like, I'll get out about Eric Bischoff. And that was one of the first times I was like, okay, WWE is letting anybody cook on the mic now.
Right.
So it was to see guys leave WCW like they did, in the manner that they did. It was some writing on the wall starting to be seen kind of early on. It just took a lot more time than it probably should have.
Indeed. I think they couldn't get in contact. No, they could have got in contact with these guys, but I feel like some of those guys, and it's just me guessing, that they're like, I don't want to do the documentary. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do the show, because I feel like there's so much more that's in this. Now with Vince Russo, a lot of people in the wrestling space, the IWC, felt like Vince Russo is like public enemy number one when it comes to the decline of WCW. So, like with Chris Benoit being the world heavyweight champion, he was shaking things up. Like, the one good thing I will say out of Vince Russo is that he was looking at the younger talent. He was looking at the talent that was like in mid-card status. He didn't want the same old people at the top to interchange those world titles. He saw what those other guys are able to do and wanted to push those guys up. And that, I do respect him in that regard for that. Now, what happened with Chris Benoit and why he threw that world title in the trash can, or whichever, I don't know. Like the only person that can answer that is Chris Benoit, and he's no longer with us. So but that what happened though. So I'm like, man, dang, like if I'm in like the mid card level and I win the World Heavyweight Championship and then I throw the title away, like what will possess me to throw that World Heavyweight Championship away and leave? Like, this is what I'm working towards, but then I leave. And that's what it is.
And it wasn't as if he won the world title, shows up on Raw or SmackDown, and then you pull a Medusa and you throw the title in there. No, he was still there. That's what makes it really bad. I mean, a lot of companies, they don't want to let you leave as champ. Yeah. Because, sorry to say it, and I'm a Medusa fan. I'm not here to talk trash to her, but she kind of put a red flag on anybody rolling out, because either you get beat to hell when you're leaving the company, you lose your title shot, or you just go off in silence. It's only a few times we see somebody get a good exit when they're leaving. Like the only one in my memory is Dean Ambrose / John Moxley when he was leaving WWE. Like they did a good exit for him. I mean, I was digging that. But Chris Benoit left. He was a champ. You don't hear that. You don't hear that often.
Not any champ. He was the champ.
Big gold belt champ.
Yeah,
so, I mean, you don't get that often, and you're not going to get that often. You won't.
Nah, not at all. So like that messed me up a little bit. So okay, all right. For a period, I think if I'm getting my timelines right, I think there was a period where Vince Russo was Eric Bischoff wasn't there. They called him back. I think it was Bill Bush. They called him back, and then there was communication breakdown. Allegedly, it was more like this, and it was like, "Well, we bringing you back and putting you with Vince Russo," but Vince Russo felt like they brought Eric Bischoff. Like Eric Bischoff came off as like, "I'm under you," like that kind of thing. Like, you're my boss. I answer to you, but you made me head of creative. And so when he talked to Bush, he was like, "Listen, you paid me to be head of creative. Like, you do whatever you got to do with Eric Bischoff, but you know, I'm doing this creative joint." Now, again, the good thing he did was push younger talent. The awful thing he did was all these like weird segments, like Viagra on the pole matches, and Judy Bagwell on a on a forklift like match, and Kevin Nash, he let us in a little bit because he was like the whole blood missing him entirely, and he was like, "Listen, we did that 19 times, then miss all 19 times." He said it. He like 19 times. He's like, imagine that. He's like, if you put this and the finger poke of doom together, you would think that would kill it. He's like, come on, bro. This is what this is.
There was a moment I can say where WCW was kind of on its way out, and this moment really pissed me off. I mean, I hated that moment, and I still hate it to this day.
Yeah.
Kevin Nash versus Rey Mysterio, and if Rey Mysterio loses, his mask comes off.
Yeah.
Rey wears that mask today. Homeboy, I need you to know, we know what you look like. That match right there ruined Rey Mysterio. And I'm a big Rey fan, but that match ruined Rey for a good while for me, because any luchadors, like, for example, Ray Phoenix.
So you didn't like the hootie hoo? You didn't like that? You didn't like that? I hated
that, dog. I hated that. Like Ray Phoenix and Penta. If you Google Ray Phoenix and Penta, if you Google those two, if you Google the Lucha Brothers, if you go to their Wikipedia, one, you ain't gonna find no pictures of them with their masks off. Secondly, guess what else you won't find? You will not find their real names anywhere on Beyonce's internet. You ain't gonna find their real names on whose internet now? On Joe Biden's internet. On Donald Trump's internet. You will not find their real names, and that's what I like about luchadors. Yeah. So I mean that I really hated WCW for that one match. And it's a lot more stuff that made me hate them in their dying days, but that one match, I was like, yo, this is a luchador who's like 5'6", 5'7". He represents the guys like me who are 5'8". Yo.
Yeah. You know what I hated though? Here's a few things why I hate it. I hated the fact that you didn't capitalize on Medusa throwing that women's title in the trash can. You did not capitalize on that. It's like you did not have a women's division. You had the Nitro Girls, but you didn't have a women's division. Like,
oh my God,
Medusa, Medusa, i.e. / Alundra Blaze, she came from a women's division, albeit it was a small one, but she came from women's division. She was wrestling. So, and Medusa was involved in certain like angles and stuff in the Vince Russo era and stuff like that. So let's go to the David Arquette situation, because I feel like that was nail in the coffin right there for me. So
I completely forgot about that until I watched the show.
But here's the thing: Vince Russo pointed at Tony Schiavone, so it was Tony Schiavone's idea. He said, "What if David Arquette wins the world title?" And then Vince was like, "Hey, call everybody back in." Now, mind you, this ain't Tony Schiavone's fault. He just threw something out there. He said, "Hey, what if this?" You know what I'm saying? And knowing Tony Schiavone, he probably was sarcastic when he said it. He probably
Tony's probably been an ass and being like, "Hey, well, why don't you let David Arquette win?" And Vince Russo probably sitting there like, "Oh, I'm about to cook."
Yes, he's like, "Hey, everybody back in, back in," and and this is me guessing. Like Tony probably was on the wall, and he was like, "What David Arquette would have won it?" you know. And then once they start talking, Tony was like, "All right, I'm out. I'm sliding."
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just here to work. So here's the other thing: Eric Bischoff co-signed on the shit. The only person that didn't co-sign on it was DDP. He was like, "You fucking me, right?" He was like, "Nah," and he was like, nah, seriously, you messing with me?" He's like, "Nah, he gonna win the title." He was like, "That's dumb." He's like, why would you?
Yo, Vince probably said, "Nah, straight up, this is what we doing." And DDP had to have been like, "Oh, these motherfuckers wilding right here,
bro." He was like, "No, that's not it, dog." And then here's the other thing: David Arquette wins the world title, right? He goes back. He talks to Booker T. He went straight to Book, and he was like, "Hey, I won the world title." I was wondering, like, how many times you won it. This is now obviously he haven't won watching WCW, and also him and capitalizing off of Ready to Rumble, which is a terrible movie, by the way. But
I never even watched it.
I did. I watched it. It was one of those 2000 early 2000s type movies, a popcorn movie. Honestly, it's not going to win any Oscars or nothing like that. So now here's the thing, though. I'm cool with David Arquette winning a title, but not the world heavyweight title. Say if it was the television title, say something like that. You know, yeah, maybe like
U.S. title, maybe TV title, yes, because he's an actor.
He's an actor, right? You could have had a television title, done. You haven't won the world title, so you go to Book, and he was like, "Hey man, how many times you won?" And Book looks like him dead in his face, like per Book. He was like, "I never won it, man." And per Booker, he was like, this man felt his whole mood changed, like absolutely. And I completely forgot that he came out as GI Bro and for a very short period. He was GI Bro, and then I feel like Diamond Dallas Page gave Booker T his flowers. He said, "Listen, man, anything that they gave Booker T worked with, and he kept going. Like he had this vigor about him that he's going to make it work. He's going to force it to make it work." GI Bro wasn't a bad gimmick either, but still, we know him as Booker T. Yeah. And honestly, that series of 7 he had with Chris Benoit, that wasn't for the TV title.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So, that opened my eyes. I'm like, yo, Booker T need to get up here. And
see, what made me a fan of Booker T was I remember my first time seeing he and Stevie Ray come out as Harlem Heat. Very first time, I remember. And they they put on a show. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, let's see what two brothers go. Let's see where these brothers go. And of course, they went on to become one of WCW's baddest tag teams. Yes, I mean, it wasn't a lot of tag teams that we could say were better than Harlem Heat. And if we were, because they gave the Steiner brothers fits. So, so I mean, Booker T, when he finally went solo, and of course, Stevie Ray tried to keep Harlem Heat going. He went by the man's went by the name of Big Cat, but we knew that was a very out of shape Ahmed Johnson. Mm-hmm. So Harlem Heat didn't really make it happen anymore. So Booker T goes solo.
Slapjack.
Booker T went solo, and I think this man has had a deservingly Hall of Fame solo career. Yeah, and Booker T was just one of those guys. He did everything right that this business asked and requested him. Yeah, with no shit talk, with no attitude. And I'm not saying that he was a do boy. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying Booker T, according to DDP, Booker T was a man's man. Booker T came to work.
Yeah.
Put in overtime and he went home.
And that's what it was.
And that was what the job entailed. Because I know this was a WWE angle.
Yeah.
But the King Booker storyline, is up here when it comes to one of my all-time favorite storylines. I'm gonna tell you something. That Joker was in character. That Joker was in character from the minute he was on camera to the minute the show went off, to the minute that episode ended.
He said that he wanted to show his comedic side a little bit, and WWE allowed him to do that. Now, this was in a WWE kind of documentary type of thing, so take that with a grain of salt. I'm gonna be honest with you, like King Booker was like had some of the funniest moments, right? And he had, I mean, that was his best heel moment. But I liked him better as Booker T. I'm not even gonna hold you. I liked him so much better as Booker T. I mean, him in WCW as a singles performer, him interacting with Goldust, like him interacting with Austin. The only thing that still sticks in my craw a little bit was him and Triple H at WrestleMania. That still bothers me. But and all that other stuff, right?
Tripp should have let him get over right there.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Right. So like back to what David Arquette. Like David Arquette went on TV and he said, "I don't deserve this world title. Like there's guys that rightfully deserve this title. I don't deserve this title. People like Booker T deserves this title." Like he specifically called Booker T by name. And Booker said on the on Who Killed WCW last night, he was like, "Whoa, I wasn't expecting that." So enter Vince Russo again. So you get Bash at the Beach. Was that Bash at the Beach 2000? That was Bash at the Beach 2000, right?
I think so.
So now we peel back the curtain a little bit, right? Now we realize, okay, this was orchestrated to a certain extent outside of Vince Russo. So apparently Jeff Jarrett was supposed to lay down. Hogan cut that promo the way he's supposed to cut it. And then once they left the building, because according to Bischoff, him and Hogan left the building, Vince Russo came out and he shot it. So and he was like, he said, if it's anything, if I don't lay in the goddamn grave, you will never see that piece of shit again. And honestly, we never saw him again. It was no more Hogan after that. And shortly after that, you're going to get a world title match, and it's going to be Jeff Jarrett, and it's going to be Booker T. And Booker T didn't even know. He's in the back, and he was
10
like,
minutes. 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Right. And so Booker said, I'm gonna do the shit. Like, to me, honestly, that was a little bit lightning in the bottom moment. That could have been the resurgence right there. Because you peel back the curtain. So now you got us interested, right? Mm-hmm. B, you got a brand new young champion in Booker T, which Vince Russo believed in. So he's talked very highly of Booker T, like very highly of him. He's like, I feel like Booker T deserved to be the world champion. This is what needs to be. Boom. Booker T's world champion.
Yep.
That was it right there. That's that spark you needed. You could have had Booker T. You could have your storylines and wrestling matches, get rid of all the silly shit. Done. Nope. Didn't do that. Didn't do that.
Not at all.
Didn't do that.
Not at all.
What it was. Well, bro, they even had a good concept with the 3-story steel cage where you had to you had to climb all the way up or something to grab the belt. I forgot what the concept was. And but
I remember that.
Yeah.
And see, I agree when you made somebody like Booker T the champ.
Yeah.
You basically said, okay, hey, we're going a different route. And Booker T said himself, in order to move up, you had to be one of the good old boys.
Yeah.
Vince Russo was not a good old boy. I mean, Vince Russo was I'm here to shake up this system. And he did, but making Booker T your champion, and at the time when the only other champ of color really had been The Rock. And of course, The Rock does have his Samoan background, but you made Booker T the champ. Look at Booker T, black as an ace of spades, look like me and you.
Of course.
There was no confusing what Booker T looked like. There was no confusing who Booker T was. Booker T was all black guy. Got a whole criminal record in his background.
Yeah.
But he comes in and color aside, race aside, he comes in and he got the damn job done. You put the strap on him, and from that point on, the missed opportunity was center everything around Booker T. Anybody that's an old head, you make sure that they taken care of. Let's start focusing on some of this mid card. Because I'm sorry, I agree with you. Vince was good with the mid card.
Yeah,
and you
decent.
Still
decent. As far as pushing them.
He still had a cruiserweight division full of stars.
Yeah.
He had a cruiserweight division full of stars over there. And the 4 guys that walked away, 2 of them were lightweighted enough to make that cruiserweight division keep going. Eddie was still the right size for it. Dean, I'm sorry, I thought Dean ran that cruiserweight division for a minute. So I mean, you still had if you would have done it right, because I wouldn't have even made Chris Benoit that champ at the top, but I would have made sure that those 4 guys would take care of it, because you lose them, you not only lose one. We understand Lex Luger left WWF and he showed up on WCW. That's one. My guy, you lost a whole faction.
Yeah. You lost a whole faction.
You lost a whole faction of Vince McMahon. And those guys could straight up get it done in the ring. Perry Saturn, I don't think we got the best of Perry Saturn that we should have. But the other 3, Demon Lincoln, the Man of 1,000 Holes, the Canadian Crippler, the Rabbit Wolverine, Chris Benoit, and Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero. Sorry, there's 3 guys with trailblazing nicknames that went on to the other company to do something.
And Booker T even said, like, he's like, I hate to say this. He said, I feel like they didn't give me the title because I was black. And I'm like, he said, I hate to say it like that, but that's how it felt. Because now, if you really think about it, outside of Booker T, the last black world champion was Ron Simmons, and was 92, if I'm not mistaken.
That was early 90s because he beat Big Van. He was Big Van Vader at the time of the Power Slam.
Exactly. And then, that was a decision made by the promoter. He was like, nah, you're going to be world champion. This is what you're going to be. And we're going to promote you. Because after he won the world title, I looked at some of the shows after that, and they kept highlighting how Ron beat Vader. And they're showing like vignettes of Ron running and up until that match or whatever the case would be. So they was actually like pushing him in a way. So I feel like I never looked at it that way. But since Booker T said it, I'm like, damn, you know what? You might be right about that. Because again, like going back to what I said earlier, like Booker T and Chris Benoit in that television title series, Best of 7 or whatever, that really opened my eyes to Booker T as a singles competitor. And then I want to say he won the US title at one point, and then he won that world title at right at that point. I was like, oh shit, like we got something here. This can change the course right now. Then Vince Russo, this is where we don't like him. This is another point that where we don't like him.
Yeah.
So he started involving himself, made himself a character in these shows every Monday. Like you see clips of him hitting Booker T with the bat, like he won a title for Book, or
he damn near got himself killed.
Yeah, he almost got himself killed. Like he already had a concussion. But you know what's funny though? Like this is twice. I feel like low key they've been throwing some darts at Goldberg, right? So when Vince Russo first came, Bret Hart said, he's like, great, we got another idiot. he said, what you thought about it? He's another idiot. He's like, this place is ran by idiots.
Surrounded by
That's who I'm surrounded by.
Idiots.
All over a bunch of idiots. And he said, Vince Russo told Goldberg, he said, listen, I got a concussion. Just get me through the door. And he said, and according to the documentary or the docuseries, he said he felt like the wrestlers were trying to hurt him. Some of them was trying to hurt him. And Goldberg like speared his ass through the gauge with his head bounced against the guardrail. And luckily he had his helmet on. And he said that was the last time I was in the ring.
Man, when you take a look at that one spot, I'm sitting there thinking, one, you got the wrong guy doing this right here because he's not going to listen. He's not going to get you through the door. So he gets good. I think that was some very bad karma for Vince because Goldberg not only takes you through the cage, not the door. Not only does it take you through the cage, but you fall in the one spot that's the worst spot of the guardrail.
Yeah,
was that part where it actually holds it up.
Yeah,
man, that's if that ain't karma for your ass right there. I don't know what is. I don't.
Yeah,
because I'm like you. I really feel as though some of them were really trying to jack him up.
Goldberg nobody going to openly admit that because, lawsuits. And here's another thing. With Bash at the Beach 2000, Hogan still have full 100% creative control. And he said he felt like, Russo said, he felt like him and Hogan probably would have gotten along if it wasn't for Eric Bischoff. He said if Eric Bischoff wasn't in the picture, him and Hogan, I don't think they would have got along anyway because Hogan had creative control. What are you going to say to a man that got creative control over his character? You know what I'm saying? If I tell you you're going to drop the title to this person, you say no, it's nothing I can tell you.
It's like talking to a brick wall, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell the brick wall, hey, look, I'm going to run into you at 20 miles an hour. Don't hurt my shoulder. So 50-50 shot, you don't hurt your shoulder now, which more than likely you probably will. But I mean, you can't. Guys like Hulk Hogan who had that creative control, literally gets the hat that says I do what I want to do. Yeah, and I think Vince Russo, which when I watched it, I don't believe I heard him say it, but Vince Russo had to have been threatened by that because you literally have someone that. You ever heard the term control their own destiny? That was Hulk Hogan through and through, who can control his own destiny on how the match ends, who he drops the title to, when he drops the title. Hell, if he drops the title. Yeah. I mean, you and I could say, you and I could say, Bret Hart got to drop his title by way of sharpshooter. Bret's got that full control. Bret could be like, look, as soon as he puts that on, mark it as a disqualification due to the fact that he's using my move and I don't like it. So I mean, it's just, I really feel like Vince was threatened by that, and I don't think he'd ever man up and say, yo, I was threatened by Hulk Hogan, because the way they ended up clashing at some point, it's there. I absolutely believe that's there.
Yeah, I feel like Vince Russo, and hear me out when I say this, Vince Russo was the right choice to get from WWF, but you should have put a filter just like WWF did. Because now, when you didn't have a filter on them, everything showed up on TV. No, like anything that came off the top of his head on TV. Like spaghetti getting dumped on somebody and like stuff that didn't make no sense. It was like throwing stuff that stick. But Vince Russo said, listen, I'm not a wrestling guy. I'm a television guy, and I'm all for television and what's going to get ratings. And he said, and he pointed out the USA Today where David Arquette is on the front page with the World Heavyweight title. He like, see that? That's press. He's like, did the ratings jump up? Yeah, jump up a little bit. And this, that, and the third. And I was like, yeah, your mind focused on the wrong thing here, because the same could have applied for a television title if Arquette won it for like 2 weeks or whatever the case may be. You legitimately got your ass beat by somebody and you won the title back, keep going forward. So, I felt like there was money to be made with Vince Russo. I truly feel that way. He shook up the foundation because for a period, the foundation was Hogan, Nash, and Luger, Sting, Bischoff. It was the people at the top, and that's typically who you saw interchange that world title like that. I mean, then you might slide at DDP a little bit later, but DDP is the people's champion.
Yeah.
But for WCW. So, I will say new world champions were introduced. Scott Steiner was a world champion. Sid Vicious was a world champion. Booker T, world champion, which is most memorable. Matter of fact, the very last episode of Nitro, Booker T was champion and he retained. So he kept that title.
He took that with him to the invasion.
To the invasion angle, right? So which was trash, but the invasion angle was garbage.
It could have been so much better when, as a matter of fact, right before we get into that, I want to piggyback off what you said with Vince Russo not being a wrestling guy, which he wasn't.
Yeah.
But when he was under Vince, what he had over him, he didn't just have Vince McMahon over him when it came to his creative. Vince McMahon wasn't just his boss. Vince McMahon at the time was a very, very good wrestling head.
Yeah.
When you have, and see, that's what I think that's why I've always said Eric Bischoff is just levels over Russo.
Yeah.
Bischoff came into it as a guy that, to me, Bischoff came in as just a guy who wanted to make something happen. Just wanted that. He just wanted that opportunity. And the next thing you know, Eric Bischoff is a wrestling head. He's a wrestling guy. He's a wrestling guy because and you got to be some type of wrestling guy to say, I got to get Hogan. I got to have Macho. I got to just try this in the Mall of America and see if it works. You have to believe in what you were doing. And
true that. And then Memorabilia says this is saying how Vince Russo got so much power. And he also said never in booking and promotion has a booker ever done that to their territory.
Oh my God. They were
throwing crap at the wall.
You've never had guys like that. There's promotions right here in Columbia. I forget if my man's name comes up.
PCW.
That one, and I think it's Wrestle Forces here in Columbia too. And I can't remember my man's name, but when it comes to the territories are ran by wrestling heads, guy who know the business, and wrestling heads manage wrestling heads. And there was nobody there to tell. There was no wrestling fan, no wrestling archiver that just said, "Hey Vince, man, this shit ain't working, bro."
Right. And then on top of that, Memorabilia says should have never had that control, and an example of why they protected the business so much in the territory days, which is absolutely true. Like, I believe in a happy medium, right? Because for a period, Russo left, Bischoff was gone, and Kevin Sullivan was that guy. So they took the silly shit away, and Kevin Sullivan was running things, but the guys that was originally at the top, they was at the top, and then the people that was on the mid card getting pushed up, they got put back down to the mid card status. So there was no happy medium there. So you need a wrestling guy and you need a marketing guy. Bischoff is your marketing guy. Like, he's going to market some stuff. Vince Russo is a television guy, but you should have had a wrestling guy in there that said, and no one has complete control over the other. Like, we got to come to a decision about something. At this point, you could have fired Hogan. It wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered.
And at that point, at his age, you could have absolutely fired Hogan, and you could have focused on other guys. And to be honest, as bad as it sounds, and I'm not blaming Hogan, even though, of course, people like me have their own personal feelings about Hogan, but Hogan's creative control is somewhat at the center of this right here.
Yeah,
it's somewhat at the center again. I'm not blaming Hogan, and we can't say Hogan is the reason that WCW was killed, because he clearly isn't the entire reason. It's a whole pie with slices of jokers that killed WCW, but
yeah,
the power that the wrong guy, the power that the idiots that Bret Hart talks about, power,
absolutely
power,
correct.
power
Absolutely
killed
correct.
WCW. Power killed WCW.
Power killed WCW. That's exactly
Power
what
killed
happened.
WCW.
Power killed WCW.
Because memorabilia, he just said it, as well as how much power Eric Bischoff got as well. Memorabilia, I think memorabilia basically just answered. I said his answer to what killed WCW. It's power. And we still got another episode to go. But I think, and thanks to 1777 memorabilia, shout out to you, player. I believe power killed WCW, and the wrong mofos got that power. And it happened. It happens all the time.
True. Here's what I said. I said the right people was in position, but each of them had too much power. Like at this point, Hogan is like on like the downslide at this point, right?
Yeah.
And if when it was time for a contract renewal or to renegotiate a contract, you can dip. I know WWF going to pick you up. I know they're going to have you on TV. I know they're going to be a ratings jump because you are on Raw or whatever.
And you're Hulk Hogan.
But that's all it is going to be. You're not going to be there for the long haul. I know that. Like, you're not going to be there for a long time. But the people that will be here for a long time will be the Booker T's, will be the Scott Steiners. It will be Chronic and Chris Kanyon and everybody else. We got a whole new crop of talent.
Look here, real quick.
Cultivate
Chris Kanyon, because I still don't think we didn't get all of the great out of him. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Yeah, Chris Kanyon, Scott Steiner. I mean, you still had all those cruiserweights. Hell, it's like you got 15, 20 of them on the roster.
Right.
Billy Kidman.
Tag team Kidman, right? Because Kidman
Billy Kidman.
I think, I want to say he left the cruiserweight division, but soon he left it because he was in like another storyline, because I forgot the young lady that was with him.
I think wasn't it Tori?
I think it was Tori. Yeah, I think it was Tori. So you kept that going. It's like honestly, like Hogan could have been the only one that been dipping. I'm like, bro, you out of here. And so you still got Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. I think Scott Hall was having his issues and stuff like that, but Kevin Nash was that other person you could pick his brain. Don't make him the booker. That was another bad decision. Pick Sting's brain, pick your talent's brain, and start working this thing back to where it is, where you cultivate the young talent. WCW would have still be here today if it wasn't for, like memorabilia said, and like you said, power. And also those execs in the back, the standards and practices or whatever the case may be, how they've been blocking things from happening. Because if you really want to get down to it, in a way, they started this. They wanted WCW to fail. Like Bischoff was fighting for his life. Like, this man had to answer to people he never met. Yeah. And then you put in Vince Russo, because Bischoff even said, this company was in the worst shape it's been since I got back. Like, this is worse than before I left. It was getting there. This was manageable, but Vince Russo, like, it's done. I'm done. It's over. Like this, and Bischoff even said, this company's done.
Yeah, I mean, when those guys said they were done,
like
they were done, and Bischoff already had to answer to guys who don't know wrestling. They know ratings. They don't know wrestling. And Vince Russo knew ratings, but ain't no wrestling. So I mean, it's the whole power thing. And I mean, it was so many ways that they fumbled this bag. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, and this is one thing I learned, actually, and I forgot who I saw say this, but you never make active wrestlers bookers. Mm-mm. You never do that. And when I heard that, and I was like, well, wasn't Kevin Nash the booker for WCW for a second? And my man said, you see WCW ain't here no more, right? And I said, wow, that just spoke so many volumes. And again, this episode really taught us the power struggle. And I still don't think if the hole that you had to deep was 6 feet just to get to the root of all that power struggle.
Yeah.
I felt like they only dug 2 feet. I still think it's worse than what we saw.
This right here is deeper. I feel like this right here is deeper. Like, ladies and gentlemen, if you do not have this Nitro book, you need to get this Nitro book, because the Guy Evans, the one that's in that documentary or docuseries rather, he wrote this. Like, he's the guy for this Nitro book, and it's not just the talent; it's like the executive side of it, like the decisions that was made, like through and through. Like that is the book to read, because I feel like this docuseries is based off this said book, but yeah, like you said, it's on the 2 feet that we got. Like it's wrestlers that we haven't heard from, that are still on this living plane, that possibly is like, nah, I don't want to do it. Hogan is the glaring one. Like, that is not on this docuseries.
And Hogan needs his own special. Now, I don't want to hear about, I don't want to hear about his life or whatever.
Yeah.
Coming, I don't want this to be a biography about him. No. We need to hear from Hogan.
Yeah. We need to hear from him.
We need to hear from Sting. We need to hear from Flair. You can bring some more guys, and we named it as Billy Kidman. You could talk to him. You could talk to Ernest the Cat Miller. You saw the clip. He still had the blonde hair. He was back there with Russo. We need to hear from Dean Malenko. He left when Russo was there. I mean, it's a lot of guys. Conan. We're not here. I know we're not.
Yeah, Conan was on the docuseries.
And that's the thing. Conan ain't saying that much though. We can always hear more from Conan, because everybody knows Conan ain't got no reason to lie. Conan ain't gonna lie. Yeah, we need to hear from Lex Luger. Lex Luger is still here with us. We can hear from him. I mean, they can dig up some archive interviews from maybe Macho Man if he said anything. Dig up some archive interviews from Scott Hall. It's a lot of guys that maybe, hey, look, it'll be good to hear from Alundra Blaze as well, aka Medusa. Would definitely like to hear more from her, because right now we're definitely hearing from Charmel, and I completely forgot that Charmel was a Nitro girl.
Yep, so she sure was.
And look here, for Charmel to be saying something.
Yeah, because she was riding for Booker. She was riding for her husband. She was like,
that's got to hold a lot of weight, bro.
Right. Like I visually even I saw this stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, this is what's going on. Like, I see his face sometimes, but he keeps on pushing. He keeps on pushing. And, we don't know what's going on the next day or whatever the case may be. It was like pure chaos. Like, from, like, I would say the last half of 99 on 2001 or whatever the case may be. And then when you really think about it, the 2001 Nitro was like one of the best shows they done. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I also feel like this, which we're going to talk about, like, when the next episode drops next week, Shane McMahon. I feel like you could have had Shane McMahon take over WCW and have it as a whole separate company still on a different channel, even though they sold it. So it probably no longer going to be on TNT. So you had to put it on another channel somewhere and still have those wrestlers, but have Shane run it, how he's going to run it, or whatever the case would be, because Shane been in the business. You know what I'm saying? He's been under his dad and see how things is ran. Well, he interjected himself in some of these matches, sure. Yeah, he would have. But back then, Shane McMahon, especially when he got thrown against that glass by Kurt Angle multiple times, that's the Shane we would have gotten. But I feel like, if Perry Saturn, Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero didn't leave, I feel like WCW would still be here. They would have pushed them up to the top, do something to make, those four happy in that sense. Chris Jericho, like, I mean, Chris Jericho was like in mid-card status. He was like, man, what I'm gonna do? Like, and he said it on Who Killed WCW. Like, he's like, you the booker, you the booker, you the booker, but who's the booker? You know, that kind of thing. He said you had this golden goose running around laying a bunch of golden eggs. you know what I'm saying?
And none of them hatching, boy.
And none of them hatching. You know what I'm saying? So like, you had the mid-card people that was really the glue, the stick to put everything together. Like, that was the wrestling. It was during the, I would say like 96, 97, 98, like hell, even 95, like when Nitro first started, you know, it was from that time period up to like the end of 98, we were straight. But I felt like WCW was cursed in a way too, because anytime they had like this big angle or this big story or whatever that was going on, when it got down time to that match or something to cultivate or culminate, it goes south. It goes south.
It was always one step forward and two steps back with them. And
yeah,
to piggyback off of what you said with Shane McMahon running WCW, Shane runs it.
Yeah,
this is my idea. Shane runs it. Of course, Vince bought it, but Vince makes sure the money. He makes sure the money's straight over there. You know, Vince gonna make sure money's good.
Yeah,
Shane runs it. Of course, knowing Shane, I can see him holding one big meeting with all the superstars, all the talent, saying, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do. This is how it's gonna run. We're gonna make this work. We're gonna get these storylines straight." Vince Russo's gone. And he gets Eric Bischoff back. And of course, they've probably got to go to a different channel because
if TNT never liked him.
Yeah, they're gonna have to go to another channel, because if Vince has got anything to do with it, which of course Vince would probably see himself as the chairman over there as well.
Yeah,
but with him being the chairman over there, you've got to make Shane CEO. You got to make him like the COO or something like that, and you hire Bischoff to do the creative. And I say this too.
Well, here's the thing. I wouldn't even make him COO. I would have Shane McMahon as the chairman. Now, it's a ballsy move because your son can surpass you. He has potential to surpass you. You know what I'm saying? But you would have had two companies still.
Make him the chairman. Vince is on the board. You could have still put Vince on the board. Make Vince your number two.
Yeah.
Because in order, Vince knew how to, around that time. Oh, Vince was definitely the guy in that line of work. So you make Vince your number two. You got Bischoff as your number three. You mean to tell me those three, Shane, Vince, Bischoff, ain't gonna make it work?
Yeah.
So you do that, and you know what? And you know what you get, and you know what you get that I wish we would have gotten all those years when those two companies were going at it. That forbidden door opens right on up.
Now, you know what? I just thought about something. Light bulb.
Shane
would have been chairman. Paul Heyman would be the booker because ECW. Paul Heyman is the booker because ECW. I think ECW folded first. You know what I'm saying? So, where's Paul Heyman? Why didn't you get Paul Heyman?
Oh, everybody, you only hear me because his headset is Bluetooth. Oh my God! And see,
right?
Hold on.
I'm just saying. Either that or have Paul Heyman run this joint. You know what I'm saying? Because Paul Heyman would have had WCW rolling.
It would have been rolling. It would have been so violent over there. They would have never lost me as a viewer.
No, and that at all. You like, if you really think about it, though. If you look at AEW, Bully Reyes said it. He said it before. He said AEW is like ECW, but with money. Like if ECW had money, that what ECW would have looked like. In a way.
The only thing AEW hasn't done, unless I missed it, we ain't seen him at the Hammerstein Ballroom yet.
No, nah.
If they if they book the Hammerstein Ballroom, then it basically says, hey, AEW is embracing the violence of ECW, which they have, but it's something about that Hammerstein Ballroom. If wrestling
it's
fans,
the ambiance, it's the atmosphere, it's everything else. Because when WCW was bought by Vince McMahon, you had that craptacular invasion angle because the contracts that Hogan had with MGM and everything else, like your main players could not come over to the WWF because of contracts. So you had all younger talent. They weren't going for the most part. Sting wasn't going because he saw how they was treating Booker T in the beginning. But he looked at that. Like he documented for saying that. But you look at that whole invasion angle, you got younger talent from WCW, which not a whole lot of people are familiar with, but a lot of people are familiar with the main players that was there.
Ain't
so you could have used them.
Ain't nobody give a damn about Sean Stasiak when he went over there in that invasion.
And Chuck Palumbo, like
nobody cared about Chuck Palumbo.
I know about Chucky T. I know about him. I knew about it because I'm watching WCW. But but still, yet though, it's like that invasion angle went this, and then it went this, and all it was I feel like was a smear campaign to foot stomp, the competition that was beating them for 83 weeks straight, and that's what it was. Yeah. And you know what I'm saying? Like Diamond Dallas Page still pissed me off to this day. When you put him up there against the Undertaker, only for him to get squashed. Like all this work that you put in, you had Undertaker on the ropes, like you had him out of sorts, and you just have a straight squash, and you ain't heard enough of DDP since then. Like DDP was the world champion for WCW. He was the guy for WCW. Then you put him on Raw, and then you just foot stomped him, and he wanted to say like he was nothing.
I feel like Vince had an issue with some of them guys that came over. The guys that he had over there in WWF/E when they were making that transition.
Yeah.
The guys he had, Vince says, these are my guys. They're elite compared to this B team of guys I got coming over. Because if you didn't think that, there's no way in the world you can look me in the eye and say Booker T couldn't beat Triple H. Booker T's probably, for his size, I'm sorry, Booker T at that time I'm gonna say because he could probably still go in the ring a little bit, but Booker T is extremely athletic for a guy his height and his build.
Yeah,
I mean, he had a diving drop kick off the top rope, which was, I forgot what he used to call it.
The missile drop kick.
Yeah,
that thing Harlem Hangover where he did a front with flip leg drop.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that thing was like that drop kick was like a heat-seeking missile the way he did it. I mean, it was money every time he did it. So I mean, it just feels like Vince didn't want the guys that came over to get over. I mean, if in that case, and then they had those guys they ended up going to TNA, being over as all get out, but it was just I felt like Vince was like, these guys are big time.
Man,
listen, I didn't make it.
My favorite moment of Booker T when he was commentating, he said, "Oh, he put him in the corner. Oh, he stopped him out. He stopped him out. He was doing
commentating his own beatdown, commentating the own beatdown that he was handing out."
Yeah. So for Vince Russo, I know what the thumbnail said, like public enemy number one. Like he's at the top of the list. Like
he's
a lot of people felt like he was a plant, like he was sent by the WWF to finish off WCW, just a throw. And Vince Russo never confirmed this either. Like he never said I was sent over there, because now Vince Russo strikes me as a person that don't sugarcoat with anything. Like he just says what's on his mind. He says how he feels, whether you like how he felt, like his words or not. So I think for a long time I felt like he was sent over to WCW to kill it. And just by looking at his documentary alone, I don't think that's true anymore. I think he had some good ideas. He had an idea to push younger talent, but you compound that with the other terrible ideas that he had, and people, that David Arquette thing where everybody was on board except for DDP, that let me know everything I need to know. So in this, honestly and truly, David Arquette was one of them nails in the coffin, or probably the final nail, honestly, on how people felt. But Eric Bischoff signed on Florida, because he said, I ain't saw no horror minute. Bitch, you ain't saw the horror minute? Like all these people that held this world title before. Ric Flair, Hogan, Sting, Luger, Randy, Kevin Nash, Goldberg, Ron Simmons, Vader, Rick Rude? I don't think Rick Rude was ever world. He was international world champion. That's what it was. But yeah, I'm just rattling off names, right? Everybody beforehand earned their right to get to that spot, to be the leader of the locker room, and everything else. Bret Hart actually was world heavyweight champion at one point. So
yeah,
in WCW. But even then, Bret Hart never talked about that in that documentary. He never did. He just said,
he don't care.
He don't care. It was like,
I don't think he cares.
Terrible time. And honestly and truly, you could have had a Booker T Bret Hart series. You could have had a feud with that. That is, injuries and whatnot, but still, you could have had a series with that. Man, you could have had Bret Hart push this younger talent to the goddamn moon.
And for Bret, I'm pretty sure Bret probably would have had no problem working with Booker T. Now that Booker T said, "Hey, look, that suplex, I got that from Bret."
Yeah,
and I mean, I'm pretty sure that respect is just ridiculously mutual. But Bret being in WCW, that robbed us of how great we know how great Bret is, but that robbed us of the time that we were supposed to get with Bret, and that robbed us of some marquee matches.
Yeah,
I mean, but at the same time, it's WCW. Who knows if they even would have made those matches? If it was left up to me and you, we'd have probably never let him get in the ring with Goldberg, because, like we said last week, Goldberg's handler, he sucks.
Yeah, that's just what it is, man.
Like get out.
And listeners, check this out, man. This is our show for today, at least for this week. Tomorrow, we will have a show tomorrow. Myself and Boogie Blends tomorrow at 7 p.m. because we're going to be talking about the Nintendo Direct, because they've been cooking out here. They had a show, Nintendo Switch had a showcase this week, and there's one particular game that got everybody buzzing. And I did a video on it yesterday, and I posted it. Go check out that video. We're also going to be talking about our top 10 underrated Sega Genesis games of all time, because
real quick, that one game we talk about, is that a certain label versus a certain label?
Yes. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Guess what? It is. I'm not going to say what the game is, because we all know I'm an Xbox guy. That game is not going to be available on the Xbox. But guess what? But it's going to be available on Nintendo Switch. My son has one, and my daughter has one, which she will have play. I'm back, like cook crack in a Cadillac, and here to get jacked. So about to be back in the game.
Hey, Nintendo Switch about to be cooking. Man. Yeah. When this thing drops, son. And what's funny about it, I got an arcade 1-up machine. Y'all can't see it. It's like right in front of my desk. They have the Versus series on it, except for Marvel 2. So they got all the Versus stuff up until Marvel Capcom 1. But on that video I talked about like yesterday, I was on the website. I shared the website, what is there, what to expect, what not to expect. But we're still going to dig deeper into that tomorrow live with myself and Boogie Blends. So definitely going to be talking about Nintendo Direct. We definitely going to be talking about The Boys. That's the first thing we're going to be talking about. The first 3 episodes, yo. We're going to be talking about that on the premiere episode, then Nintendo Direct, and then our top 10 underrated Sega Genesis games, man. Tomorrow's show is going to be jam-packed, for sure.
The Boys.
Dude, shout out to our Twitter followers. Shout out to our YouTube followers. Do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button and share this video with the masses, because the more people that like this video, the better. We can spread this out to the masses and put out way better content than what we already doing, because we aim to get better, ladies and gentlemen.
Yo, E,
also,
who does the show with you when you go over Go Losing Ranger?
Myself and Vivo.
Hey, real quick.
Vivo and myself, Grammar.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Shout out to Vivo, and I'm caught up with Go-Go Loser Ranger. Oh my God, it's one of my favorite shows. So shout out to you and shout out to Vivo for putting me on, man. I really appreciate that. I love that show now, bro.
Listen, man.
Subtitles, no English dub, subtitles.
We converted this man. Over to the subtitle genre, man. I'm cool with that. Now, also, we do have our Patreon as well. Our Patreon have our online digital magazine that drops every other month. And actually, this month, the new issue will be dropping. And it's jam-packed with stuff. We got an amazement coverage. We got Motor City Comic-Con coverage. We definitely going to be covering some up-to-date content for as anime, manga, and comics and stuff of that nature, and pro wrestling content as well. So there is a video that will premiere on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, but the Patreon subscribers already had that video. So they had it for like the past 3 to 4 days already. It is In Living Color episode 2 with Leanne Smith. She is an artist, and we actually did a interview plus drawing. So while she's drawing her original characters, I'm interviewing her and asking her questions and stuff like that. And the first episode of In Living Color was with Michaela, which you can actually check out that video as well from a few days ago on our YouTube channel. And we'll go from there. But it's Wednesday night. Dynamite tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So it's 8:18. Do you got anything else for the listeners out there, Alvin Staley?
Man, if you can't be famous, be infamous. And always shout out to the mad scientist E for his platform. Always, man, y'all heard what y'all could tune into. Of course, tune in tomorrow night. He's gonna be with the big dog Boogie Blends. And I gotta make sure I tune in tomorrow night too, because I definitely want to give my feedback on what's going on, because the video games is coming out. I'm about to go broke. So hey, look,
I like it. And we're gonna be dissecting the boys too, man, because there's some people that are upset out here about this new season.
Video game consoles. Here it go. Here it is. It's for you right here.
Hey, what's that video meme where you open your wallet and John Travolta come out from Pulp Fiction?
Yo, and real quick, the boys. I'm not gonna get into it because I'm not gonna get too much. I just want to say this: the boys always figures out a way to violate our eyes for one good episode.
Yes.
No, they've done it for 3.
Yeah.
So hey, everybody, that's all from me. Again, if you can't be famous, please be infamous and be safe. Let's get it in next week, episode 4. Who killed WCW? All them mofos out there. Look, everybody did it. Except
everybody accomplished. But we're gonna give our percentages. We're gonna give our percentages next week, though. We definitely give our percentage. Who's the catalyst in this?
We might look here. We might have y'all a pie chart next week. So be ready. We might have y'all a pie chart next week. Be ready. And
shout out to 1777 Memorabilia, for participating in the chat. And thank you for the viewers for looking at this as well. So until next time, y'all. Peace.